Hello and welcome to the first ever Moving the Sticks football podcast. So today I'm joined by Richard and Jay, and my name is Roman. We'll get started. First video: Matt Ryan traded to the Colts from the Atlanta Falcons for a 2022 third round pick. Were your guys' initial thoughts on this? And yeah, how do you think Matt Ryan's going to do in Indianapolis?
Richard, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I thought it was a good trade for the Colts and the Falcons. Honestly, both sides. Falcons need to start rebuilding because they've just been stuck in mediocrity after they blew that lead uh to the Patriots. Yeah, so they needed a reset. They traded Julio already. They should honestly just seek to trade all their veterans. I know they still have Grady Jarrett's like really their only Pro Bowl caliber player left. Or I mean, they still have a young tight end, Kyle Pitts, but other than him, they need to just start building younger, and I think they did well this year in the draft with Drake London and Desmond Ridder building for the future, and I think Mariota is a good bridge for them. For the Colts, I don't think this puts them into contention, but I think this puts them to at least get into the wild card and not lose to the Jaguars in week 18. Um, yeah, so that's what I think. I don't think the Colts will get that much better, but I'll think they'll at least make it into the playoffs.
Richard, to add on to your point about veteran players there, the Falcons have extended Grady Jarrett 3 years, 51 million. So that is going to be a tough contract to get rid of, in my opinion. But I do agree if they can get rid of their veterans, it would be a great idea to start the rebuild.
Yeah, boys, I completely agree with you. I think it's a good trade for both sides. I mean, the Falcons, they kind of need to look for a new identity. Julio Jones is gone. Matt Ryan, the two probably longest tenure players, with the exception of Jake Matthews, their offensive guard. Those three guys, I mean, have been on the team for 8+ years. So I think it's now the start of a new Falcons team. Probably will be led on offense by Kyle Pitts. For the Colts, though, I mean, this is more about the Colts because they're receiving a player, and it's a veteran quarterback in Matt Ryan. It's going to be interesting to watch because the Colts, there's actually a stat, you guys will see it on your screen right now. On Twitter, there's a fact that the Colts are, I think the only team in NFL history to have a different quarterback starting in 6 straight years. I'm going to pull it up right now. In 2017, they had Scott Tolzien. Okay. In 2018, they had Andrew Luck, and then Luck retired. In 2019, they moved on to Jacoby Brissett. In 2020, they had Phillip Rivers. 21, they had Carson Wentz. Now they have Matt Ryan. So it's been a really, really strange QB situation going on. But you guys got to consider, Matt Ryan is turning 37 tomorrow. So he probably has 1 or 2 years left in the NFL and the rest of his career, right? So do you really see – I might have to go with Richard. I don't see the Colts being contenders this year. Their offense is mostly going to be running based because, I mean, they have 2 extremely talented running backs and Jonathan Taylor, of course, and Marlon Mack. But going back to the receiving corps, T.Y. Hilton is now a free agent. They dropped him. So it's going to be interesting to see who Matt Ryan's going to throw the ball to. But I don't see the Colts making the playoffs either. I mean, it's going to be really, really tight considering how good the AFC is now really is with so many stars going to different teams there. But it's going to be really interesting to watch.
I think, personally, Matt Ryan's top 2 targets, obviously you got Jonathan Taylor, and then, surprisingly, I'm going to go with Mo Alley Cox here. So, as well as Michael Pittman, I think that he's going to get a lot of the attention on the when they're out on the offensive side of the ball. With his skill set. We saw how explosive he was last year. One of the most underrated receivers in the league, in my opinion. We saw how well Jonathan Taylor performed, obviously. Recently, Luke Kuechly named him in the top 5 hardest players to tackle. So I think that Mo Alley Cox, their tight end, is going to be one of his guys he's going to look for because it's not something that a team is going to think. They're going to think big guys. You got Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. Throw it to the tight end.
I mean, yeah, Mo Alley Cox he's kind of becoming like one of the players in the Colts I could see on the team for a long time. And Michael Pittman, I mean, he's already established himself as the number 1 wide receiver on the Colts, taking over what T.Y. Hilton had for so many years. But don't you guys think that the Colts kind of have lost an identity now? I think both teams they don't have an identity. Matt Ryan is gone. He's the face of the franchise. In my opinion, he's one of the best offense players of all time. I mean, 2016 MVP. I think he's 8th all time in touchdowns or passing yards. He's 8th and 9th. I just forgot which order it's in, but he's in the top 10 in both all time in passing yards and in passing touchdowns. So it'll be interesting to see if he can maybe do some magic with the Colts and potentially get into the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's still up for grabs. But going back to what I was saying about identity, the Colts now, T.Y. Hilton is gone. Their defense is good, I know that, but their offense. Do you think Matt Ryan is going to be like the guy who's going to be like the mentor for this entire offense? Because he's their oldest guy on offense. I don't really think anyone else can mentor as well as him.
I think Matt Ryan's going to have to take control pretty quickly here. I do think that they will not make playoffs for this year or the next year. And as you said, he's turning 37 tomorrow. So with that being said, he's going to come in as a veteran. He's going to have to lead these guys. He's going to have to teach them, give them kind of the works around what it takes to be a playoff team and a contending team. Because for the past years, the Colts have always been a name that people have thrown out there to make a deep dark horse run. And obviously it hasn't panned out. And I think that for a third, I think that's a fairly nice trade. I think it's probably what he was worth, not much more than that. But I think that Matt Ryan, he's going to have to teach them and give them the experience to end up winning a Super Bowl. Because with a stud like Jonathan Taylor, running backs don't last long in this league, unfortunately. So they have to win soon. And that's probably not going to be within the next 1 to 2 years. But I think that Matt Ryan's going to give them the teaching, the experience, all that kind of things for when it comes to playoff time for that team to excel.
Yeah, one more thing, and I'll give it to Richard. I mean, the Colts, their defense has looked much, much better since probably the last 2 years, since they made the playoffs and lost to the Bills. I mean, now they have Stephon Gilmore. I think he was voted best defensive player in the year just a few years back.
And Stephon Gilmore, 2 years, $20 million. That's the contract that he has signed. So he'll be there for 2 years, probably around the same time as Matt Ryan, just to kind of help that defense with the experience as well.
And the Falcons, I think they kind of make a mistake now because they, as per what I have here, the trade saves the Falcons $8.1 million in cap space, but adds $40.5 million in dead cap to their 2022 salary. That is a big hit because they signed Marcus Mariota, and we'll get to him in a minute. But going back to Matt Ryan, I mean, this is a huge kind of toll for the Falcons, in my opinion. But Richard, going back to the identity part once again, like, what do you think Matt Ryan's role in Indianapolis is going to be?
So I think Matt Ryan's kind of just going to be more of the offensive mentor and the offensive captain because on defense they already have an identity. Darius Leonard is the captain of that defense. He's the maniac. He's calling all the plays there. He's getting everyone hyped and getting everyone ready on defense. And they also have so much talent on that defense now. Like you said, Stephon Gilmore. They traded for DeForest Buckner last year. He's still up there up front. They have their pass rushers aren't as talented, but they still have a multitude that they can switch in and switch out. And they just have a solid all-around defense. And another thing for Matt Ryan with the Colts now is that he's not going to get sacked as much because the offensive line is much better. They have Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly. I think Braden Smith as a tackle. They have just a much better overall offensive line than the Falcons. So Matt Ryan's going to have more time in the pocket. He's going to have more time to adjust. And he's just going to have more time to, I guess, like be mentoring the other players instead of focusing on recovering from sacks and injuries.
And that's something that the Falcons never had when Ryan was there. I don't think that they had such a great offensive line. I mean, Jake Matthews, as mentioned earlier, probably better, one of their best offensive guards. But I never really thought that Matt Ryan got the offensive line that he really deserved because he's actually, if you think about it, he's actually a pretty talented quarterback. He just only had one or two weapons his whole career. One of them, of course, being Julio, right? So, Roman, we'll throw it back to you now.
So I think it's time to start kind of talking about the Falcons side. The Falcons have signed Marcus Mariota 2 years, $18.75 million in total. That was by Adam Schefter. So I think that this is a good replacement for the Falcons. I think that he's a good, not too old, not too young. He's a guy that, has had a starting job in the league before. Came in. He actually came in for the Raiders for a game or two or something like that. Didn't play bad. I thought he had potential. Before the Browns got Deshaun Watson, I thought that maybe Marcus Mariota was going to be a good fit just maybe for a year or two. And I think that's what the Falcons did here. They got somebody that they can trust for a year or two until they find their guy. And that's what I think Mariota's going to do here. I think he's going to be their guy. He's going to help rebuild. And once the Falcons finally have their mind set on a quarterback, whether it's through a trade or through the draft and the years coming, I think Marcus Mariota is going to be the guy that they're going to have fill in. He's going to play well. He's not going to be top 15 in the league. Probably top 20. I'll give him top 15 to 20. But he's not going to be bad. And I think that's kind of what they signed him for.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, you got to look at this. He's a veteran quarterback because this is going to be his 8th or 9th year in the NFL. He's only 28 years old, so he hasn't even really hit the 30 mark yet. So he's still technically in his prime. So, and I mean, and not last year, but the season before last year, the COVID year, 2020-21, he got some snaps. I think he was more of a utility player because, I mean, Derek Carr would never be replaced by him, but unless injury. But I think he still can run. His legs are still good. He can definitely throw the ball for sure. I mean, we've seen what he did in Oregon a long time back and what he did with Tennessee. He still had some pretty good stats with Tennessee. He had over like 13,000 passing yards during his tenure there. So, I mean, the Falcons didn't really lose. That's why I'm really considering this to be kind of a win-win trade. The salary cap might be a bit different, but the trade overall is a win-win. I mean, the Falcons still get a veteran quarterback. So it'll be fun to see what happens. And I think Mariota's going to do pretty good. He and Kyle Pitts might be the new like hot thing going on, the new Matt Ryan, Julio type situation. But it'll be fun to see what goes on there.
Yeah, so
Right.
honestly, in all honesty, I don't think the Falcons are doing anything next year. I think they're gunning for the first overall pick. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud going to Atlanta next year, maybe. So that they're gonna be in the market for a quarterback next year. Seeing Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the market for this year and next year. You got Sam Darnold out there. I don't know. You might as well just try to draft one of those
It's getting
rookies.
worse and worse.
You might as well just try to draft one of those rookies at that point. So, Baker's still out there too. But yeah, so I don't know. I think
God,
Atlanta is definitely going to be quarterback shopping, in my opinion. I don't know how much they're going. They might get like some exciting wins. Like they might get some upsets. I could see them getting some upsets because they have a lot of explosive talent, like Cordero Patterson, Kyle Pitts, Mariota, who can just go off at some point in the season. But I just don't see them being too much in contention. But it's definitely a win for them because they're going to get a high draft pick next year. So.
And honestly, no, that you bring up a good question. I mean, do you really think the Falcons could be something next year? I don't expect them to make the playoffs, as we all. I think Roman. I think you would agree with that. You don't expect them to make the playoffs next year. Think with Tom Brady coming back, it's still the Bucs division.
I think that they do have potential going forward. I mean, this is the first team that we've seen really use Cordell Patterson to what he could be. I mean, last year took the league by storm. So we know that they have potential with Kyle Pitts as well. We know that there's something going on there with Drake London. I mean, obviously we won't know until this season starts and how it goes, but I think they have potential, and I don't think Marcus Mariota is a long-term solution, but I do believe the Falcons will be fighting for a championship, or at least, maybe not a championship, a division, kind of after Tom Brady's gone, and
I mean, Jameis Winston's still there.
It's a fun division, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Jameis Winston, it's Mr. INT, but other side of the ball. On offense.
Yeah, you got two Mr. INTs still in the division. You got Sam Darnold and Jameis Winston.
It's not much of a competition.
What an interesting quarterback division.
What about Cam Newton? He's going to be this. Don't you think Cam Newton's going to be this? That'll be an episode for next time, don't you think? If Cam Newton versus Sam Darnold, Carolina's in a mess. I think the NFC South is just going to be Brady's division. Like Brady, whatever division he shows up in, he's just going to own. Like
NFC South is just a mess of a quarterback division. You have the GOAT and then just three. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what this. It's three like former first and second overall picks.
And then you got 1/6 overall pick who has 7 Super Bowls.
You got 199 in there.
All right, guys. guys.
So I think that's going to wrap up this episode on Matt Ryan and their trade with the Falcons and Colts. These are our opinions. So look back to more next time.